Good morning, everyone. For teleSUR, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. We start off in the Middle East, where U.S. airstrikes in Syria and Iraq continued early on Friday. The U.S. Army says airstrikes targeting oil fields and Islamic State bases in the east of the country. The campaign has so far killed an estimated 183, though the Pentagon has denied any civilians have been killed. French bombers are now joining airstrikes in Iraq. The French government has announced its forces may now join airstrikes in Syria. And in Britain, the British Parliament will vote Friday on whether or not their country will join U.S. airstrikes in Iraq. Prime Minister David Cameron urges members of Parliament to give the go-ahead to start a campaign that could last years. Hundreds protested Thursday outside the Parliament, rejecting British involvement in the U.S. offensive. Protesters warned of civilian deaths, mission creep, and called for resources to be spent on public services instead of violence. And now we go to Venezuela, where the government has released another video showing opposition activist Laurent Saleh planning violent attacks to destabilize the country. The new video shows Saleh and his group planning to hire snipers and professional mercenaries to start a bloodbath. The young activist also spoke about cleansing universities. Saleh reveals that he worked with former Colombian President Álvaro Uribe in a smear campaign against political opponents. The Cuban government has announced that it will increase its aid to fight Ebola in Africa. Originally, Cuba announced it would send 165 health workers, but has now almost tripled that number. The Cuban delegation will work in the 3 African countries most affected by Ebola. Those are Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia. The announcement follows pleas from those countries for increased international help. The UN chief has commended Cuba for its efforts. With just over a week until Brazilians go to the polls to choose their president and South America's largest democracy, current President Dilma Rousseff retains a lead over her nearest rival. The latest poll released Thursday shows Rousseff with 38% support. Market favorite Marina Silva garnered 22% in the poll. Aiso Neves trails behind both in third place with 17% support. If no candidate wins 50% of the votes in the October 5th first round, the race will enter a second-round runoff election between the top 2 vote-getters. That election would be set for October 26th. Polls show the race at a statistical tie between Rousseff and Silva in a potential runoff. And now we go to Honduras, where international journalists are showing their solidarity with their Honduran counterparts. For how they're expressing this support, we go to our correspondent, Gerardo Torres.
Honduras is one of the world's most dangerous countries to practice journalism, and during this week in Tegucigalpa, investigative journalists from many countries will share their experience and learn more about the 47 journalists killed since the coup d'etat of 2009, trying to develop strategies to stop violence and impunity.
We have to demand investigations and information on the progress of those investigations without stopping. We have to make it clear that we won't forget what happened.
Threats forced Lourdes Ramirez to live outside of Honduras for the last 3 months after she produced an investigation that exposed bad practice and corruption in San Pedro Sula's public hospital. She lost her job and now takes permanent self-protection measures.
Our investigative report discovered that a patient was completely covered with worms, flies around his face and out of his neck. The TV news network I used to work with broadcasted the news.
And thanks to Gerardo. Early on Friday, tensions continue between protesters and police in the United States city of Ferguson, Missouri. At least 4 protesters were arrested. Protesters had gathered outside the police department to demand Police Chief Thomas Jackson's resignation after they accuse him of mishandling the investigation into the murder of black teen Michael Brown by a white police officer. On Thursday, Jackson issued a video apology. The 2 main Palestinian factions, Hamas and Fatah, have reached an agreement to allow the Palestinian Authority government to operate in the war-ravaged Gaza Strip. Following a two-day meeting in Cairo, they agreed that the unity government run by President Mahmoud Abbas would take control of the Gaza Strip. The deal is designed to ease the blockade of Gaza by Israel and Egypt and open the way to reconstruction.
Today, with the formation of a national consensus government, we announce the end of a Palestinian division that has greatly damaged our national case for 7 years.
We end this morning with a look at sports and one of the world's most famous motor racing events that is coming to Bolivia. The Dakar Rally is like no other race, covering more than 6,000 miles. The next Dakar Rally will kick off in January in Bolivia and pass through Argentina and Chile. This week, organizers have been testing the course that crosses plains of the Bolivian Andes. Much more on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For teleSUR English, I'm Cody Weddle. Have a great day.